The Ohio State University is an elite research institution where thousands of world class researchers discover and innovate on a daily basis. But annually, only one of these researchers is named Ohio State Innovator of the Year. In 2025, that someone is electrical and computer engineering professor Sanjay Krishna. Sanjay and his team are developing next generation infrared detectors, arrays, and imagers. He is co founder and chief technology officer of SK Infrared, a startup company focused on defense, aerospace, and biomedical applications of infrared imaging. But he's also a firm believer in the Ohio State tradition of paying forward. Shortly after arriving in 2017, he launched ECE 5078, empowering the entrepreneurial electrical and computer engineer, as a pilot course to teach entrepreneurial minded engineers how to create value from their inventions. Sanjay, thank you for joining me on Enginuity.
Thanks, Dean Howard. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so Innovator of the Year. This is a rare air at a place like Ohio State. So, what was it like getting that first phone call?
Yeah, that's it's a very special memory for me. Because I was in the family room, I got the note. I'm sitting in with my wife and children. I think it was our older son who was there, and I couldn't believe it. And it was totally out of the blue, unexpected, and I was really humbled and honored. And I think I felt a sense of gratitude because it really takes a village to do things like this. And as I mentioned in my acceptance speech, this is I was really accepting this award for all the people who are there. So we all see success, but the whole iceberg of success is submerged in a sea of failure. All the mistakes, all the lessons learned. So a lot of Ohio State colleagues, my department chair, Shankar, a lot of the teachers and mentors I've had. I've been so gifted to have a great set of students, both at the Kind Lab, a great professional set of engineers at SK Infrared, friends and family. And I think for me, coming out as an immigrant, going in from being a coming out and seeing, especially with my parents, not just having a formal education, they both were high school. They only studied till 10th grade, and just because of the necessities of, and then coming out to be here and in the span of one generation to be able to come to this point was so definitely a big, overwhelming sense of gratitude.
So, the summary is that inventions and innovation is really a effort of the community, which I think is
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
So, I think most of our listeners know what infrared is, but obviously not as much as you. You are the expert in this field. So, help us understand the advantages of infrared technology and why it might be underutilized and underappreciated.
And that's a really good question, Dean Howard, because it is really underappreciated. And it's really a lot of it is I wouldn't say the devil is in the details. I think the God is in the details that you have. And with any field of engineering, really understanding the things at that level requires a lot of dedication that you have. So I'll tell you what are the three things that happen in the infrared that you cannot do in the visible, why this is a very important technology for both dual use applications, for national security, for aerospace and defense, but also a lot of commercial opportunities, which actually has been underexploited. I do believe the infrared imaging and sensing market is a huge potential for growth. So the first thing is we can actually see through objects. So if you're an airline pilot landing in foggy conditions, you can actually see the landing strip. And that's because there are windows of transmission where you can see through smoke. So a firefighter who has a few critical seconds to rescue a victim or a survivor needs to basically identify them through a cloud of smoke. So you can see through that using an infrared camera. The second thing is you can do what's called as a chemical sensing. So you can basically see if you have, for example, pollutants coming out from an automobile, you can shoot a laser, look at the reflector signature, and know that this is a molecular fingerprint that you have. It's a carbon has a vibration which happens to be in the infrared, so you know what sort of gases are being coming out from there. And then the third is that you actually have thermal imaging. So all of us, if you turn off the lights in the room, all of us are actually emitting photons. Then the infrared can actually see that. So this is applications ranging from skin cancer, from medical diagnostics, all the way from to aerospace and medical. But the reason that this is also specifically for our students here, EC in general, as you know, Dean Howard, is a very hard field. We go all the way from physics and material science, chemistry on one end to deep math on the other end, from as we go from along the sensing and the compute stack. And semiconductors in particular require a lot of understanding of quantum mechanics, of material science, of semiconductor physics, thermodynamics, statistical physics. It's a very, very hard field. And I think being able to understand some of those details, so that's why I mentioned about God being in the details, and we want to be able to empower our students with that kind of knowledge to be able to make a change in the world.
So understanding the different disciplines and bringing them all together. I actually like the seeing through objects. Like I'm looking for my glasses then with the infrared detector right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. No, that's true. And I always, whenever I go to the airport security, I'm just like, see the x-rays and I say, man, we should be able to do this with the infrared. And so there's definitely a lot of applications.
So thinking about all these applications, you launched your company, SK Infrared, in 2009, 2009, I believe.
That's right.
Um, okay, and so you did it while you were at the University of New Mexico. The initial product, if I read correctly, if I heard correctly, was focused on skin cancer detection, which you briefly mentioned just a second ago. So thinking about that, how was the company, one, how you founded it, but how has it evolved since becoming a Buckeye?
Actually, we started with like every faculty entrepreneur, we sort of stumble across this way. So when I joined University of New Mexico after getting my degree in 2001, and I got my tenure in 2006, we had what essentially is the equivalent of TCO here at Ohio State. We had something called the Science and Technology Corporation, and Lisa Kutila, who was the president of STC, would always come and tell me, Sanjay, when you're starting a company, when you're starting a company, and I said, Lisa, I need to get tenure first. I need to get my tenure. And then and Sanchita, my wife, she's a PhD in cancer biology. So we had both our children in grad school. And then she was looking after finishing her degree in 2006 to do something. She did a postdoc. I did my sabbatical. And then we said, maybe we should do something together. And it turns out that we were brainstorming and what could we do together, and we knew between physics and biology there's definitely a lot of chemistry happening, so we said we'll try and get an application here. So we landed in skin cancer because first of all, from a this was one of the expertise that Sanchita's work was in DNA damage and repair. So that's her specialty in cancer biology. But also, it turns out that skin cancer, because the infrared basically penetrates about the first 100 microns, so zero point 0.1 millimeter that you have into the skin. So you're able to then see the signatures associated with thermal signatures associated with skin cancer. So we developed, actually, this is not, the technology was not new. There's some pioneering work done in the 80s. The idea was using dynamic infrared imaging that we had here. And then we had the company. The company was small. We basically was all self-funded using some small business innovative grants. And then when I got recruited to Ohio State, and Sanchita had taken a step back from the company because we know FDA approvals just take a long time. And I do believe the future of engineering is in medicine, but then it just was a long haul that we had, and we pivoted to aerospace and defense. So we had a full-time CEO running the company, and the company is still small. We're about 10 people, but we basically have more focused on aerospace and defense. For example, I'm sure your listeners have heard about LiDAR, which is basically light detection and ranging. And LiDAR is you send a light signal, a laser light, you look at the reflected signal that you have, and then you need a laser, you need the optics, and you need the backend receiver. So we work on some of the receivers that you have. And the idea in the infrared detector world is you can do things which are, again, high speed, highly sensitive that you have here. So the LiDAR is the driverless car that you have. But you can also use the same technology for example, we had a project with NASA looking at doing methane gas detection from space. And so it's the same thing, a laser light that comes in and basically knocks off or scatters off a methane molecule, and you can actually see this. So the whole idea, the range is from everything from aerospace, where you can actually do terrain mapping, you can do spectroscopic detection, to space, to driverless cars. So while the physics is the same, the length scales is different, and then also the customers are different, right? The pain points of the customers are different. The defense customers are typically very, very demanding in terms of performance. The commercial customers are much more demanding in terms of the price point. So that's an example of a LiDAR is an aerospace application. The idea that we would like to come back to biology, that's one of my pet loves, is to come back to solve some of the hardest problems, like cancer. Is that a engineering problem, chemistry problem, biology problem? a medical problem? And the answer is all of that. So Mother Nature gives us problems which are truly requires interdisciplinary efforts.
So I actually agree. I do believe the future of engineering is medicine, but I'm also biased in that space. And you mentioned TCO, just for our listeners. The TCO is our Technology Commercialization Office, and we do have a podcast talking about that relationship in engineering. So thank you for mentioning that. I also know that one of your other passions is teaching and mentoring students. And this entrepreneurship course that you launched is fantastic. And I have done a few guest lectures over the years with you. And I really believe that is a hallmark of our pursuit of entrepreneurial minded learning here in the College of Engineering. And in social media main style, how did it start and how's it going?
No, that's a good point here. And actually, and I'll tell you this in answer in two parts, Dean Howard. The first is, how I came about doing this, and then also, I don't know whether you remember this, but in our first meeting, there was a challenge that you gave me, and I'll refer to that. But so when I came out here as a faculty entrepreneur, I feel that my job at the university is really to empower the students, train them. Our products are our students that you have, so you need to spend time to be able to do this. But then in the company, the product is a product. When you develop a sensor, you don't need your co-founder and CTO to go and explain to NASA why things are not working, right? You have to make it work. So it's got aligned mission, but they're slightly different. So for me, having the idea to be a faculty entrepreneur, where I could train the students and then still have a company, and then the students really wanted to hear from practitioners. So being able to get that, and that's why it's really empowering the engineers. So the hypothesis was teaching our engineering students the things related to business, finance, legal, the things like liquidation waterfall. What does a cap table look like? When you start a company, think through carefully about, make sure you have your legal documents in place, make sure you have your accounting, things that I learned on the side, maybe having a little bit more structured forum to be able to do this. And I think, like you mentioned, you were one of the guest lectures. One of the best things that the students love is that the guest lectures that you have, Dr. Tom Burns, who's again a distinguished alumni from the College of Engineering, comes out and shares his story of how he went, and the students love that. And there is a sense of genuinity that you have from the guest lecturers who come in and share. They're very vulnerable. They share. I remember you and Dean Howard telling about all your experiences. When students hear this, then you get to see, they basically unveil the curtain and see the real story, all the success, and sleeping, all of those. So, entrepreneurship is not for the weak hearted. You have your highs, but highs are highs and lows are really, really low. And so I think seeing that was definitely helpful. The challenge that you gave me, Dean Howard, was you said, Sanjay, you've developed this really cool thing. I love this. How do you scale this? How can we do this not just across your department, but the College of Engineering? And I thought a lot about it. And so I've actually spoken, we are developing, we actually just launched the techpreneurship certificate that we had. I think really building collaborations with the business school. Had a really good meeting with the AC, with Arvind, the dean of business school, and also with the medicine. And I said, so I think engineering is really in that trifecta, where if you can get medicine, business, and train our students to be able to do this. And I'm super excited right now with all the leadership that we have, with President Ted Carter, who has got a great vision for us in for the future of technology, with Provost Bill Mkunda. I know you've worked with him in the past at Georgia Tech, VPR John Horak. So I think the stars are aligning, and I think if we can develop this into a vision where we just do this not just for us here in engineering, but also across the whole university. And I think that's where I feel that when we do something like this, the best is yet to come, and our students are absolutely amazing. And I think getting that combination of empowering them with faculty leadership, faculty entrepreneurship, encouraging and empowering our students, I think sky's the limit.
So it really goes to show that innovation doesn't just happen in the lab. It really requires the mentorship, the understanding, the cross pollination of business and engineering and medicine. I think new ideas and creativity and bringing that all and blending it with the classroom are just valuable, if not more so. So, Sanjay, thank you for being a multidimensional innovator and for taking time to chat with me today.
Thank you. Thanks, Dean Howard. It's a pleasure being here.
Thanks for listening to Enginuity. Stay up to date on all the amazing innovation and groundbreaking research happening within The Ohio State University College of Engineering by connecting with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X.